Welcome to Oracle CloudWorld. Today's topic is reliable data integration from applications to analytics. My name is Jayant Mahto. I'm product manager in database technology division. This is today's agenda. We'll start with data integration basics. Then we'll talk about different tasks in developing data integration project. Then we'll talk about specifically for autonomous database, the tools which are available to create data integration project. And then we'll take NetSuite as an example, NetSuite application, and we'll go through the different tasks for building data warehouse. And there is a short demonstration as well of the same. And we'll wrap it up with a review and we'll give you some reference material as next steps. So let's start with data integration. What is data integration and why do we need it? But before we jump into it, let's look at importance of data in modern enterprise. It's a simple, funny statement, says our data shows that we need more data, as if we don't have enough. But it's true. Any enterprise gets more and more data all the time. There are legacy applications like ERPs, CRM systems on premises. They are moving to the cloud, generating more data. There are more applications on the cloud generating data all the time. You are getting data in forms of flat files in different formats. There are IoTs. So data is coming more and more from various sources all the time. It's growing all the time. Now, all this data is actually quite valuable. It should be treated as a valuable asset to an enterprise. But it's valuable only if you can derive some intelligence out of it. This business intelligence which you can derive can be can give you a competitive advantage against your competitions. But how do you do that? The data is in all different locations, in all kind of different forms. This is where data integration comes in. Data integration brings in all this data together and makes it useful for analysis. Now let's look at the different aspects of data integration. The first aspect is the extraction and moving of data. Data need to be extracted and moved from source application to somewhere else, namely staging and target area. You can ask, why can't we do the analysis at the source itself? You can, but very soon, you will hit some limitations. Generally, the source applications are designed for very efficient transaction processing. They are not designed for analysis kind of workloads. And you don't want to put extra performance burden on the source systems for doing your analysis. And also, the data may not be complete for your analysis purposes. ERP data doesn't have the campaign information. So for analysis, you may need data from various applications, various sources, and you need to combine them to give you a complete picture. And also, the data shape may not be suitable for doing analysis, and they need to be transformed for analysis purposes. So this is the picture shows you the entire flow of data integration at a very high level. The different steps like extraction, transportation, and transformations in the entire flow. On the left side, you have various applications. You have ERPs, marketing, and CRM applications. There are a few. In real enterprise, you will have a lot more applications you will be dealing with. And the data from those applications need to be extracted and put into some staging area we talked about. Generally, when you do that, you extract data and load into staging in the same shape, in the same form. Normally, it's a third normal form. And once you bring in all the data, whatever data you need to combine them and transform them. Of course, we need to combine to give you a complete picture, but you need to transform them as well because the analysis applications on the right side, they need data to be in certain shape for effective analysis. And one very simple modeling technique is a dimensional modeling where you create facts and dimensions for the data objects which you are interested in. And once you model the data that way, you need to load those models from your staging area. And then it becomes very, very useful for analysis. This is the entire flow of data integration. Now, when you are building a data integration projects, let's look at different tasks, and they will kind of correspond to different steps which we just saw in the picture. You have the load part, where you are loading data from various sources, and these load components will be different for different sources, because different sources need different mechanism to extract the data and load into a staging database. You need to think about incremental extracts, because sometimes, like, you will be able to differentiate what is a new and what is changed data versus like an old data. In that case, you can limit your subsequent extraction to only the changed data. And as we mentioned that in a staging database, the data shape is similar to the source, but that's not suitable for the target. So you need to create target models of facts and dimensions, etc., for the objects you are interested in. And in case of autonomous database, you have different modeling techniques, additional modeling techniques, like in analytic views. In analytic views, you can create measures for the measures which you want to analyze, and dimensional hierarchies for the objects. And once you create the models, you need to load them with appropriate transformations, and that's where the transform data flows come in. And once the data models get loaded with appropriate data on a periodic basis, you can do the analysis with the appropriate analysis tools. Now, the tools which we are going to use in autonomous database for data integration uses a specific architecture called extract, load, and transform. In short, it's called ELT architecture. It has different components. First is the connectors to different sources. And as we mentioned, there are sources are of varied kind. There are databases, various kind of databases. There are applications. There are on premises, or on cloud, and each application is different. So similarly, the connectors are also going to be very, very different. For databases, sometimes connecting directly using database driver is sufficient, but sometimes applications don't allow that. They don't allow direct connectivity, and applications sometimes have a specific data export mechanism, specific tools which are available only for those applications. So these connectors have to make use of appropriate drivers, appropriate the export import tools, sometimes REST APIs for extraction of the appropriate data, and they need to have appropriate network connectivity to on-premises or clouds or wherever the data sources are. That deals with connecting to the applications and extraction of the data. Now, once you extract and load the data to a staging area, you need to transform it, and that's where transformation engine comes in. Now, this transformation engine has to deal with a rich set of transformations. The transformation need could be quite varied, and you should be able to perform all those transformations. And most importantly, it has to be high performance. In the beginning, we saw that more and more data is coming in enterprise. It means data volume is quite high, and it's increasing all the time. Even if you do daily loads or hourly loads or whatever frequency of loads you do, the data volume will be quite high. So this transformation engine which we are talking about has to be very, very high performant. Then there is the issue of coding or no coding. For authoring these flows, some users may be comfortable with writing SQLs, writing a Python code or language of their choice. And there will be users who will not be comfortable with that. They might be needing some kind of drag and drop UI. So you need to be able to cater to both. Of course, once you author this data transformation data flows, then transformation engine should be able to execute that and process the data. So this architecture, ELT architecture, is actually quite efficient and is of high performance. And in our case, you are loading it to autonomous database and using the autonomous database as a transformation engine, as a very high performance transformation engine. Now, let's just recap that. You need connectors to all kind of data sources. In case, actually, any data integration tool is valuable only to the extent that it has connectivity to different sources. right? So you need to have a wide range of connectivity to different kind of services. And rich transformation capabilities, that is very much required. You will be needing to join different tables. You'll be doing a lookups, you'll be doing filtering, doing null value substitution, aggregations, and there are so many different transformations you might want to do to make it useful for analysis. All those transformations capabilities should be available in this transformation engine. And as we mentioned, it has to be high performance. Now, let's talk specifically for autonomous database and what kind of toolings are available in autonomous database. Basically, you need to use the right tools for the job. And for autonomous database, the right tools are built in. If you deploy autonomous database, and if you look at the database action space, the picture is on the right side, you will see that there is a section of data tools. In the data tools, you have tools for loading data, transforming data. You have a catalog to look at objects which are available to you. You have tools to run insights, and you have a tool for data analysis. Of course, you can use external tools as well, but these data tools are available in autonomous database right away with no extra cost and no extra deployment. Is like right there. Um, for our purposes, for because our topic is data integration, we have a tool, a specific tool called data transforms, indicated on the picture on the right side. Now, this tool, it comes in two flavors. One is built-in, which is right away available to you in autonomous database, and it's vendor managed. You don't have to do anything. Also, this tool is available as a customer managed environment from OCI Marketplace. It's the same UI, same features. It's just that tool deployment is different. And for some customers, that is useful because it offers expanded source connectivity. If you have custom drivers to connect to your some exotic source, data source, then you can use that. So it's a choice for customers. Most of the customers will be happy with just a built-in data transform, which is available in autonomous database right away. And this is why it becomes first choice for autonomous database users, because the tool is right there. Why don't we make use of it? You don't need to have bring in some external tools for that. Now, let's look at the data transforms tool specifically. This is a drag and drop UI. It has a drag and drop UI, and to build the data transforms data flows. And it is specifically useful for data analysts and data departmental users, because they can build in the data transform flows very easily without much knowledge of what's happening underneath. It had the rich transform capabilities. You can see this in the picture. You can see a lot of transforms on the top, aggregates, expeditions, filters, and many different kind of transformations. They can simply drag them into the panel and create whatever data flows they need. And this data transforms is actually based on industry-leading ODI, Oracle Data Integrator. Some of you may be familiar with Oracle Data Integrator if you are in data integration space. ODI is Oracle's data integration tool in on-premises and now available on the cloud as well. For quite some time, we have thousands of customers on premises and on OCI, and this tool is there for last more than 10 years, and it competes very well with other tools in the market. Now, the data transform tool, which we are talking about, available as a built-in tool in autonomous database, uses the same architecture as ODI, and because of that, it inherits the high performance engine. As you mentioned earlier, that high performance is very much required for any data integration tool. So data transform is also very high performance tool. And it also inherits wide range of data source connectivity, which is also very much needed. Now, let's dive into one specific applications, NetSuite. We'll take this example of NetSuite and we'll show you how to build data warehouse for NetSuite. And we have some automation available in data transform as well. We'll look at that. Now, if you are building data warehouse for NetSuite, these are the things you need to do. You need to, of course, extract the data. And for extraction, you need to identify the source tables. So you need to know which tables you should be going after for data extraction. and that will be based on the business areas you'll be interested in. You have to understand the relationship between sources, because you will need to combine the data. There could be parent-child relationships, so you need to understand the relationships, and then you have to build the extraction flows to the staging area. You need to create the data warehouse model, facts and dimensions that you talked about. You have to create analytic views with measures and hierarchies. And then you have to load those models, and you have to create data flows with incremental load capabilities, ideally. So that these data flows, you should be able to schedule it for periodic loads. Now, for building a data warehouse, the task which we just described for NetSuite, we have a widget available in Data Transform. And this widget actually does most of the work for you. It analyzes the source tables and builds data extraction flows from sources to the staging schema. Uh, and it actually implements extraction, incremental extract capabilities into those data flows, so that subsequent loads will deal with a smaller set of data, only the new and changed data. It also creates facts and dimension tables based on the relationships found in the NetSuite application. You don't have to do anything; it does it automatically. It creates analytic views with measures and dimensions, and creates data flows from a staging area to the target data warehouse. Now we are going to show you exactly how it is done in this short demonstration. We are looking at the autonomous database actions page. It has this data tools, and you have a data transforms tools, which we will use, and we will also use data analysis tool. But first, let's look at the data transforms tools. This is the home page. Before we do anything, we have to build a connection. And when you are creating a connection, you can see that there are connections to databases available, to various applications, and we are going to use the NetSuite connection. You have to provide the credentials to connect your NetSuite application. Let's look at the connection which we have already created. All the credentials are provided automatically. We also have a connections to data warehouse. This is the autonomous database. And also we have a connection to the staging area. Now we'll launch the widget from the NetSuite connection for building the data warehouse. And first you have to provide the staging schema connection. And then you have to provide the target schema connection. This is where your data warehouse is going to be. And you have to pick and choose various NetSuite business areas which you are interested in. And you can do a multi-select. And once you select whatever business areas you want and click on the save, there is a job going to be created in the background. And this job is going to create all the necessary data flows, create the workflows, bring in all the definitions, and also going to create the analytic views in the autonomous database. And let's look at the objects which are created by this build data warehouse widget. First, look at the data entities. And we are looking at the connections for NetSuite demo data, which we had created. And these are the entities which are brought in from NetSuite applications. And you can go in any definition, and you can see the column names, data types, etc. These are read from the NetSuite application, and the definitions have been brought in. And one project has been created for this connection. And this is created by the widget. There is no manual coding needed. They are created automatically, these data flows. And also workflows are created, which we'll look at it later. And there's a schedules where we can schedule them. We'll do that later as well. First, look at the different stages
of our entire flow. There's a first staging, loading staging area, then extracting the primary keys, which will be used for delete purposes, and then loading from a staging area to the warehouse. This is where all the facts and dimensions will be loaded. And finally, we'll apply the deletes. So let's look at one by one. So look at the first one where data is extracted from the NetSuite application to the staging area. Let's look at one particular area for purchasing. We are just filtering it out. And let's look at the data flow, which has been created by this widget. You can see that this is the NetSuite application table for purchasing data. And there's a filter for incremental extracts, and it's loading into the staging table, staging schema, sorry. Now, next is extracting the primary keys. These primary keys are extracted in order to handle deletes so that we can compare them later and find out if there are any primary keys which have been deleted from the source. Now, this is area for loading from staging to the warehouse. And in this example, you are seeing that various tables from the staging for transaction headers, transaction line items, etc., and they need to be joined accordingly, are being loaded into the target table. And this target table is the fact table, purchase order fact table. And it also has the incremental extra logic for filtering only the incremental data. And finally, we are going to apply the deletes. So there are delete data flows as well, which are created automatically. So note that all these data flows are created by this widget. There's no manual coding needed. And the widget also creates the workflows. And in the workflows, again, you have different workflows for different data flows. You can see that for different phases of the data integration flow, you have workflows. And you have all workflows as well, which you can execute to execute all the workflows. Then you can see the components. The first component is loading into the staging. This is for loading the primary keys. This is from the staging to the warehouse. And finally, applying the deletes. This workflow can be executed manually right away, ad hoc, or it can be scheduled for periodic loads. So let's create the schedules for this workflow. Let's call it a nightly load schedule. And we are going to pick up the workflow which need to be scheduled. In this case, it's going to be the workflow all. And we will run it daily, and we'll run it at at a specific time. In this case, let's do it at 2 o'clock, not PM, 2 o'clock AM in the night when workload is less. And this work now the schedule has been created, and the load will run daily. So this was the process of creating a data flows and for schedules. Now we will also look at the analysis component of it. The same data tools which we have, we looked at data transforms. We also have a tool for data analysis. Now this data analysis tools is going to help you in analyzing, and this dashboard has been created by the same widget. And you can see that there are dashboard for the various analytic views has been created. This is purchase order analytic views. All the dimension hierarchies are there. You can look a couple of them. Look at this is the time hierarchy, and this is the location hierarchy where location is rolling up into the country. And also there are measures. These are again brought in from NetSuite application, and you can use any one of these measures for your analysis. Like for example, we can simply bring in the net amount. Let's look at net amount for analysis, and you can do the analysis in this window. We are not going into the details of how to use this data analysis tool. This was just to show the capabilities of the widget for building a data warehouse for NetSuite application.
Now let's review what we just saw. It was a widget-based data warehouse build tool, built-in data transforms for NetSuite applications, and it creates hundreds of data flows And these data flows had complex joins and incremental logic, load logic. It was a lot of work, and it saved actually a lot of manual work. It was created based on the business area list of business areas which are provided by the end users. And for these data flows, the corresponding workflows were created, which could be scheduled for periodic loads. And not only the data flows, but the dashboards for analysis were also be created by the same wizard. The appropriate analytic views were created with measures and hierarchies based on the relationship and the NetSuite. And it was available for analysis right away. No coding was necessary for building this warehouse. And these data flows could be customized as well. We didn't go through the demonstration, this customization aspect, but the data flows were available for any kind of customized editing. And one example of customization could be if you want to enhance this data from data coming from other applications. In that case, you will simply create a connection to these different applications, and simply drag those data source tables into the same data flow and join the data to create this customized data flow. We talked about NetSuite in this demonstration, but if you are dealing with other application sources, then you can follow the similar methodology where you will create a connection to the source update application. You will basically create these data flows to bring data from source to staging area by simple drag and drop, and use incremental extraction methodology there. And from the staging area, you will load the target data models, dimensional models for those source applications. You can use the same methodology. So this data integration tool, data transforms tool in Autonomous Database is a very much suitable tool for building any kind of data integration project. Now, for next steps, you can watch a short video for these data transforms tools. You can share with your colleagues as well. In Oracle channel of the YouTube, you can simply do a search and you will be able to find this tool. We also have a lab for in Oracle Live Labs. If you want to learn more about it, and if you want to get your hands dirty and actually get a feel of how this tool works, this Live Lab for autonomous database tools helps you, it teaches you to provision autonomous database, how to create database user, and how to use these different tools in autonomous database. This concludes our today's session. I hope this session was useful to you. Thank you for joining. Have a nice day.